You know, I really miss the classics, like the original Pac-Man.
Really? Because I have the original right here.
Whoa, is it just like the original arcade version?
Sure.
What if I told you the Pac-Man we all know and love wasn't always the cool video game character that dominated the arcades? 1995's Pac-In-Time brings a new chapter into the Pac-Man universe by introducing us to a prequel of sorts of his previous adventures. Pac-Man is sent back in time to the magical year of 1975 by his arch-nemesis, the Ghost Witch, to get rid of him once and for all. You play as Pac-Man. Well, in 1975 he is a Pac-Boy, and you have to collect pellets to go through some side-scrolling levels to get back to the 80s. As you can see, this game is vastly different than what you would expect for a Pac-Man game. These are side-scrolling levels that involve minor puzzle solving as you collect all the pellets in each stage to reach the ending. Each level starts you with one or some of the abilities present in the game, and you have to go through these rings to collect other power-ups to complete the level. In total, there are 4 power-ups you can select freely with the shoulder buttons. A fireball that allows Pac-Boy to shoot projectiles left and right, a hammer that can break certain objects and also deal damage, a bubble that allows Pac-Boy to dive underwater, and, most notoriously, the rope. The rope here is the defining attribute in this game. It allows you to snap to the level and use momentum to swing around freely. At first, it's a lot of fun to swing around and zoom through the levels, but it's also where my biggest complaint with the game is: the momentum. First, Pac-Boy runs like a train of bricks. His movement is very hard to control, especially when you are really gaining speed. His rope as well makes it really difficult to be precise when you need to. To be fair, platforming isn't entirely the focus here, as it's more so about finding all the pellets in each level and using your abilities and defeating enemies. The enemies here are quite different for Pac-Man. They're generally animals that are native to the area you're traversing, like birds, rams, things like that. Ghosts are here, of course, and you can only defeat them with a power pellet. I found that in most cases, I would get a power pellet, but it would run out by the time I actually found a ghost it was intended for, due to flying around the stage on the rope or just losing control when I tried to get to where I needed to go. Another aspect that really bothered me was the collision on the stages, and especially the power-up rings. It made going through them just troublesome for no reason, and some of the game design puts them in really awkward spots on purpose, because if you go back through them, you lose the power-up again. Why would the devs do this? It really just adds frustration when trying to complete a level. The game can be fun, and it does have a lot of content with 5 different worlds, each with 10 different levels, but at the end of the day, after swinging around as Pac-Boy, I'm not really sure if it's worth your time and more so just something cool to look at when checking out Pac-Man's history. Pac-In-Time was developed for the Super Nintendo by a studio called Callisto Games, with Genesis and Game Gear ports also planned but later cancelled. Callisto let Namco license a game they made called Fury of the Furries, which Namco then reskinned to be a title in the Pac-Man universe. Callisto would later file for bankruptcy in the early 2000s, but of course, random, weird Pac-Man spin-off games would still live on.
Pac-Man is one of the most recognizable characters in gaming since the early 80s, so it isn't surprising to see Namco experiment with Pac-Man in different genres. So when this Mario Party clone was released in 2002, not only did it feel several years too late, but it did little to stand out from its peers. Pac-Man Fever? No, not the song, but the video game came out on PS2 and GameCube. The footage is recorded from the GameCube version, but the PS2 version looks identical. This isn't an exciting game to look at, but let's be real, we aren't playing this for the graphics. I thought this game was going to have a heavier focus on Pac-Man, but with appearances from Reiko from Ridge Racer, Astaroth from Soul Calibur, and Tiger Jackson from Tekken, it probably could have been called Namco Fever and no one would bat an eye. You play minigames like you do in Mario Party. The difference is that in Pac-Man Fever, you play them at the beginning of each turn and the position you finish in the minigame determines how many spaces you move. Instead of coins like in Mario Party, you have tokens which you can use in the token store. My main complaint with this is that you have to land exactly on the store and it isn't as easy as it looks. When you have a chance to buy from the store, you can move up spaces, you can move your opponents back, you can multiply the amount of spaces you can move next turn, or even buy raffle tickets for points. At the end of the board, there are 3 spaces you have to get 3rd, 2nd, and 1st respectively to move an extra space. This is something I like because it rewards being good at the minigames. Now with these minigames. These are the meat and potatoes of any board game video game, and I find this is where Pac-Man Fever struggles with the most. I like that these games are pretty easy to learn and play. Most games don't require anything more than the control stick and a A button. The Achilles heel for this game, however, is the lack of interesting minigames. They lack any polish and are over too soon. There are a variety of games since each board has a different unique twist to it, but you know how it goes. Quality over quantity. A couple board games such as darts, tag, and fishing were fun, but they can't make up for the amount of dull games that were included. I like that Pac-Man Fever rewards good players, and my friends and I laughed a few times while recording this, but we all thought it was a 5 out of 10 game. I got it for $5 and there's a reason it was that cheap. However, I'd still play this over Mario Party 10. A few years later, Namco decided to revisit the Pac-Man board game idea with Pac-Man Party, but it can't be as cool as this game because it has freaking Astaroth. Pac-Man x Astaroth is a crossover I never knew existed but always needed in my life. Thank you Namco for making this dream real.
The 90s and early 2000s was the dawn of 3D platformers. With the new generations of consoles allowing for 3D graphics, every IP was trying to get in on the 3D craze. Pac-Man World on the PlayStation 1 was Namco's attempt at translating an old property into the world of 3D, and honestly, it's a pretty successful one. Pac-Man's friends and family have all gathered for his 20th birthday because the game was released for Pac-Man's 20th anniversary, and they get kidnapped by the ghosts and the nefarious Pac-Man, who is basically just a giant mechanical Pac-Man wannabe. The game consists of 6 worlds with 5 levels each and a boss at the end of each one. Your goal is to progress through the level while collecting enough pellets to open an exit door. Every level has a variety of enemies, including the ghosts you all know and love. Pac-Man can bounce, dash, and blast his way to victory. My only gripe with the controls is that the PS1 didn't have DualShock controllers from the start, so a lot of 3D platformers use 2D inputs, and Pac-Man World is no exception to this. All of Pac-Man's abilities are used really well in the level designs. If there's a ledge you can't quite reach, try bouncing. Steep incline, dash up it. One enemy giving you a hard time, instead of bouncing on them, just throw a pellet. To me, the difficulty has a perfect balance. The levels are designed well enough that I know it's my fault if I died, with a few exceptions, but failing doesn't put you so far back that you don't want to try again. Now getting from point A to point B in the level is usually simple enough, but the real challenge in this game is from doing everything in the level. If you know 90s 3D platformers, then you know Collectathon is the name of the game, and Pac-Man World does this very well. There are fruits and items scattered throughout the levels that you can collect and use to open special doors. Fruit doors may have a switch which reveals pellets or a letter that can help you spell out Pac-Man. If you collect all of the Pac-Man letters at the end of a level, you unlock a bonus level. You occasionally will find a key in the levels as well, which is used to open a door to rescue one of Pac-Man's friends. You can also find Galaxian ships in the level. If you go to one of their doors, you'll get transported to a maze level just like the classic Pac-Man mazes. These mazes are hard. Besides the ghost gang as usual, you'll have to go through hazards that are themed to the world you're in. If you die, you'll get another try with the pellet count remaining the same, but this takes away from your overall life total, which can be annoying if you're just trying to get through the 3D levels. That being said, the inclusion of the mazes is a great homage to the original. Collecting everything is an absolute pain, but I did feel accomplished whenever I was able to find a secret. As a bonus, on the main menu, there is a playable version of the original Pac-Man arcade game. Now, this is not to be confused with the Atari version. Ew. There are a lot of really bad 3D platformers out there from this era, but I was really glad to find that Pac-Man World isn't one of them. I definitely plan on playing the sequels when I can get the time for them.
Man, screw this game. Will's dead to me.
You threw away a perfectly good game. I'm gonna go play it.